Everything you need is already inside of you. The world would not be what it is without you. When we begin to create change within us, we begin to create change in the world around us. Your journey to becoming your best self as the whole person starts right now.
Hello, welcome to our podcast. I'm Lauren Sweeney. I'm your host of the Become Your Best podcast and webinar series. Whether you're watching us live as we stream into our Facebook page, or you're listening, perhaps in the car or while you're making dinner, we're excited that you're here. Let me tell you a little bit about our special guest today. You are going to be blown away about what we are about to talk about. Jason is the founder of Yarusi Holdings with his wife, Pili. They have over $75 million in AUM across over 850 multifamily units. He is an avid ultra runner, awesome, and a workout enthusiast. He hosts the Multifamily Live podcast and the Jason and Pili Project. And I know Netta, our founder, has been on with him. You guys, every day he wakes up, what time? 4:22 a.m., 4:32 a.m. We're going to have to find out why 4:32. That sounds intriguing. He's an inspiring ukulele player. Ooh, I think you and my 6-year-old both could jam out together. And most importantly, he's a father, you guys, to 3 amazing kiddos and, of course, husband. What we're going to talk about today is the 100-mile mindset. Setting goals and achieving them by taking the first step. And even talking about some uncomfortable subjects around our personal and professional development, because that's usually where we need to go to actually find success. Well, let's bring him onto our stage. We're so excited to have you today. Jason, welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Thanks, Lauren. How are you?
Absolutely. I'm great. Well, let's talk about 4:32 a.m. What has you wake up at that time, and why did you pick those exact minutes?
As Pili and I met, we met about 20 years ago, working in a lot of different capacities. So at that point, we were working in bars. I had started some restaurants in New York City. I started and sold a brewery at that point. So our time was always, we would be up late, right? And that was our time to be productive, to get the most done, right? So we had this life where the life almost started at the end of the day, right? For most people. Well, fast forward, we become a couple, we get married, we start, Pili have 1, 2, 3 kids. You quickly find that your mornings get their family time. That's the time you're going to spend. And the only time that you can really set your day up is if you get up early to prepare yourself. And for me, it took me a while to realize that my day is only as beneficial as prepared as I can be. And so many of us, we get caught in a day where the day controls us. And I had to find the way to take back my day. And so I found that 4:32 a.m., I set that. And what it is that I have to start the day with a win. And if the first thing I do was to say, you know what, let me just hit that snooze button. Maybe I'll sleep 10 more minutes, or maybe, you know what, it's not important if I get up right now. Well, that's going to set the narrative for the day. So I said 4:32 a.m. It starts 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And that just starts my day. Whether I feel good or I don't feel good, I'm tired, I'm sleepy, I get up and go. And that's the first win I can set in the day, is getting myself out of bed to start my morning routine so I can prepare myself. So when it is time to go spend time with my kids and they wake up, I can be completely involved with them and not be worried about 10 other things that I didn't do before they were awake, because I set the stage by, hitting that snooze button first thing out of the gate.
I love that. 4, 3, 2, 1, let's go. No matter how you feel, doing it no matter what. Now it's probably such a habit. Did you begin it after you guys had kids?
I did, and that's part of the lesson here is, everybody can have great advice for kids, but you have to learn it, right? You have to learn what's going to be your process for you to make the most with kids. And you find that they grow so fast, right? Their time is so important, because every day it's almost like they're gaining years upon this. So to make sure that I can be committed, because most of the time we find our failure in just feeling bad about what we're not doing, right? So when we're at work, we're feeling bad for not being with our kids or our family. And when we're with our family, we're feeling bad because we're not getting done stuff that's, for the job we're working at, or for the business we're growing, or for, our multifamily properties. But when we can find to get back to control our times, when we're there, we can be present, then it can really set the stage for our life to just really take hold of it and start moving forward. Because especially now, there's so many outside things to our environment that could control how we feel. But when we quickly realize that we can't control those things, right? I can't control, what happens across the world. I can't control what happens in the stock market. I can't control what happens in a lot of things, but I can control, what I do, what I say, and how I feel. I can control that. And to get up at that time, noting that I may not feel great, that's just going to happen on certain days. And that's part of even my running is I get up and run every day. And I don't look at the weather, because we find that we let the weather dictate our life, right? Oh, it's raining today, so this is a bad day. Or maybe it's snowing, or it's cold. And so, even for the kids, I've made it important that Pili and I look at this, is that the weather's not going to dictate how they set their moods too. So if it's raining out, fine, let's go outside. It's not going to matter, because ultimately we want to set up that we can control our life, and it's not going to be the weather or things that are happening outside of our control that's going to really set the stage of how our life's going to be.
I love that. It makes so much sense. Then the mind doesn't have that wiggle room to come in and say, oh, but Jason, you shouldn't run today. You should. Then we break up our routine. All of a sudden, our routine's kind of disintegrated. Let's talk about this 100-mile mindset that you mentioned. Tell us more about that.
Sure. So, I started running back probably 2008, and before that, I played lots of sports, but never had run distances. And I said, you know what? Of course, your friends, they start you just don't get together and play sports like you used to, right? Because everybody starts having their life, everybody gets busy in their own practices. So running was one of those things where I could still get my exercise in, and of course, I hadn't done it before, so I was horrible at it. And I made a point that I was going to run a marathon, and so I got into the New York City Marathon and trained for that and did that race. And over the time, I've grown and grown into doing more and more of those. And then a couple of years ago, I found out about ultra marathons. And this was just this new thing that I just never heard about running these distances. And as you train for a marathon, there's typically, a pattern. Maybe you'll run, a mile, 2 miles, 3 miles the first week and build yourself up as you get closer to the race to a couple 20-mile races. But for a long race, 100-mile race, there's not really like you're going to run a couple 80-mile races, prior to the event. So I had to really just get my mind ready that I don't know what I don't know. And so there's not going to be this perfect plan. And in life and in business, in so many capacities, we want to have everything perfect in our mind and everything perfect in our plan so we can go and act. And then the second we do, just like Mike Tyson says, you get punched in the face and your whole world blows up because you're not ready for that first step. But if we can ultimately just set our mind right that we have to take that first step to learn better questions and better answers and take that next step. And going into my first 50-mile race, I learned this the hard way, is that had a fantastic race, but I came out of the gate saying, here's my perfect plan. I'm really strong on the uphill, so I'm going to run the uphill, and I just have to keep my feet dry. But going to how I like to prepare, I didn't look at the course. So third mile into a 50-mile race was so steep on the uphill that you couldn't run. Fourth mile in was the first of 4 rivers to cross. So by the 5th mile, I said, okay, new plan, no plan. And that's how I've begun to take these races, is that with the 100-mile race, you basically run the first 50 miles with your legs and the last 50 miles with your mind. And so many times with our goals, or even think of like New Year's resolutions, like why do 90% of people fail? Well, it's because we put a goal in mind that, one, we don't really have concrete set into us, but we don't look at the first step. We look at just the big goal out there. So whether it be I want to make $1 million or climb the top of Mount Kilimanjaro, we never start because we can just only focus on that goal. And that goal is so scary that it's safer for us to stay where we are, even if we're not happy with it, even if it's just not what we want, because that's safer and more comfortable to us than going out and going after that big goal. But if we got back to the point of saying, okay, instead of focusing on being on the top of Mount Kilimanjaro, what if we look at, okay, what would be some of the items we need? Maybe a tour guide. Maybe we're going to even need boots. What is that first step to just get us out of the gate? And I take that into ultramarathon running, is that if I was to go out there and say, okay, only 100 miles left, it would be that point where my mind, since it's never done it, would not be able to really understand it. And so it would be telling me that we can't do it. But if I say, okay, so here I am. I've run 26.2 miles before. I've run 50 miles before. How about we just get to the first aid station, or the first, the drink station, 5 miles in, and then we'll see what happens. And then you get there and you say, okay, let's just get to the next one. Maybe we're at mile 12 or mile 15. And we keep giving ourselves actionable tasks that we can get to. And you may get to mile 60, mile 70, where it may be, maybe can I just run 500 more steps? Or maybe can I just get to the bridge and figure it out from there? Or can I just get to that next tree? And lo and behold, 100 miles. And that's a lot how we can look at our goals. Instead of saying, oh, this is a big, scary goal, and I just don't know how I'm going to complete it. Well, what's that first step that I can take to get to a point where I can just say, can I just get to that first step and then figure out the next question to ask? Because we don't go after our goals because we get so worried about this big goal that's out there. It's so scary because our mind's not used to it. We've never had this. So ultimately, we don't understand what it feels like to have it. And so we just stop. And we paralyze ourselves to a point that we say, you know what, I'm just not going to try because I can't see myself, getting to a $10 million business or, running 100 miles. But if it was just that first step, can I get out there today and just walk around the block? Or can I look at, read a book on people who've been successful about, growing $10 million businesses, and then you start stacking wins. And a lot with setting up our day, getting up early, is about stacking wins. Because ultimately, not every day is going to be perfect. Days are going to go how they go, right? And if we were to say that each point that comes up is going to blow up our day, well, it's going to be pretty rough going. But if we can control everything that we can control in our day, so when things come up that are not ideal, we can put our attention to them instead of having everything else really spiral out of control because our whole day has started in a way that was not ideal to begin with.
So great. That from setting up the day to telling the mind, you know what, I have no plan. We're just going to get to the next best step. Knowing you're basically going to bypass that subconscious mind every 5 miles, right? Until you get to that 100 miles. But that idea, let's just get started. Let's not worry about exactly the plan. I love the analogy too, that you're going uphill and then you're like, oh, snap. Now we have to cross these rivers. Okay, you know what? Throw out the plan. Let's just tackle the next river. Let's just tackle that next steep uphill. Makes so much sense. Talk about the uncomfortability. You said that we have to look at what we're uncomfortable with so that we can actually move to the success we want to have.
So hardest thing to take is to look at ourselves and be subjective, right? So if we're not in a place in our life that we feel we should be, okay, that's fine, but why? What are the current actions we're doing, whether it be in our relationships or our finances or others? And that can be very uncomfortable, right? Because we're being critical of ourselves, but we have to learn from ourselves. What we're doing today, if we're not where we want to be, well, why not? What is it? And instead of putting the finger and putting it the outside forces that are controlling us, no, it's what are we doing today that we can control? If we don't have time, well, where can we get our time back? If we don't have money, well, how can we look at our current finances and eliminate things that are not crucial to us getting to our point? So looking at ourselves and asking a comfortable question of, here's where I want to be. Why am I not there? What is it in me that are points that I can control today, so I can start looking at my future as a place that I will be and not a place that I don't think I can be. And when we change our mindset to get our words from, I don't know if I can, or I'm just not sure, I think I can, and say, or I can, I will, I have to. And when you start putting those words in your mind and being uncomfortable in your wording to really set the stage that you're already doing it, that's going to allow you to have success on a small level that's going to grow into massive, massive success. We want to have immediate satisfaction. And that comes in so many things, in so many lives, even social media, right? It's, oh, this person has this and that. But what's not seen is the story of all the struggle they've had, of all the points and all the work they've had. We only get the end product. And for us, when we don't get that, within 3 days, 5 days, a week, oh, we're failures. We're not this, we're not that, because we forget about the process and the plan. And many times we feel the goal that if we have this, then everything's going to be perfect. But it won't be, right? If you get everything right now today, life doesn't just stop. It's not, okay, I got it, so life's over, right? There's going to be that next day and the next day. And so understanding that the journey and the growth and evolution, it may be uncomfortable, but that's where you're going to find your greatness. That's going to find who you are. If someone gives you $1 million today, like someone wins the lotto, so many people lose all of the money because their mind's not ready for it, because they haven't had that growth. They haven't built that foundation. They haven't had that process. It built upon themselves to learn the steps that are going to lead them to be, happy, fulfilled, financially well off, whatever's going to be important to you. So looking at you and your life, it's to ask the questions of, I want to be here. What can I do today to take control of my future? And then act on it.
I love that. That self-reflection, self-coaching. Okay, where do I want to be? And truth time, how do I have to get there? What do I have to do? What would you say is one of the hardest things that you've had to do?
Yeah, it's a good question. I like to just take challenges and say, what's next, right? And so usually the unknowns, and you find, because you're hard today, and you can't really compare hards, right? So for me, if 100 miles is for someone else might be, walking around the block, right? But they're all the same hard. It's just at that point where the hard is. And so you'll find that the moment of hard is when you look back on it, because you've accomplished that, you look back and say, well, it's not hard anymore. At that moment, it was crucial. All right. It was so important. I don't know if I'm going to make it past this. I'm going to get past this. And then you do, and you're like, oh man, I don't know how I do this. And then you go forward in your business and in your life. And ultimately you say, wow, okay, that wasn't hard. Now there's a new level of hard. And so when you constantly keep what's on next, so, I can put on everything from, as we were buying our first, we went from, buying 3 and 4 unit properties to a 94 unit. It was that. So at the moment, that was very hard. It was this big unknown, this big jump. But now that's what we do, right? Or even that point of, running that first marathon, when you hadn't run that marathon, you don't know how you're going to be. That was going to be hard. Or even a point where, Pili and I were on different paths, and we somehow came together, and it was a very unknown way. But, at that point, you think it might be hard to find that perfect person, but then it happens, right? And so at each step, there's that new evolution of hard. But what you think is hard is not comparable to someone else's hard, because where your mind can continue to grow, it allows you to be ready for new things in your life. And so it's good for you to be self-aware of who you are, and understand that what someone else is doing has no relation to what you're doing, because you have to go through your process to understand how you can evolve through things that are difficult in your life to grow from them, because things happen. And they're not always ideal. I mean, they're not always great. I remember, our 6-year-old. He's our oldest, and it turns out when he was born, they kept saying he had a large head for his part. So we would have, a million different things. The kid had so many tests, through this, through that, through this, through that. And, 8 or 9 tests in, and it's just, we're like, man, you're concerned, everything's worried. They find out, they go back to him and said, well, you guys just really, like, the family overall just has a large head. So he just has a large head. And it was like, thank God. But in the same part, you have that struggle that you go through right here to look at that point of, and then, the poor kid's going through all these tests. So thank God it turned out like that. But it's that part of, at that moment, that was really hard. That was really difficult, right? And so, it's as you grow as a parent, like seeing your kids, if they fall down, there's other points, those are hard, right? And so as you grow, I ran a couple thousand miles last year. That was difficult, right? And so at each part, you have struggles that you can build upon and say that, okay, this is going to pass from what I'm going through, and a new thing will come up. And to know that the sun's going to come up tomorrow, and I'm going to have to do this today, where I can control again what I can control, and then deal with the new thing that's in front of me that I'm going to have as a test. That's going to allow you to continue to move your life forward.
Yes. So many nuggets, Jason. So good. Your next best step. If people want to connect more with you, how can they find you?
Sure. So you can find me, Jason Yarusi, on Instagram, or Yarusi Holdings, to learn more, of course, about our business and what we do. I didn't share because I think we're on some other time. We're actually going to do a multifamily event if that's something you're interested in.
Cool.
June 10th, 11th, and 12th. We just did a fantastic one about a month ago. You can find that at multifamilyliveevent.com. And a lot of the strategies we talked about today, I have a book that you feel free to go get the book. It's free book, pay for shipping, fitrichlife.com/book. Talks a lot, the journey Pili and I have been on, the steps that we've learned to implement in our days, right? And it's continuing to learn from really what we've done to continue to grow to the life we want, right? To the life that we're looking to lead for our family and for our future. And you can find those here at the book.
I love it. So if you're listening on the audio version, it's fitrichlife.com/book. And that's how you can get his book. And then if you'd like to check out his multifamily live event, where he can tell you everything that he's doing, what they're doing together, it's multifamilyliveevent.com. You guys can check him out. And then, of course, you're on the gram as well. And Yarusi is Yarusi, just in case. And it's also on our Facebook page if you want to check it out on the visual. Well, Jason, we love to end by asking everyone, what does rise up for you mean to you?
So it's a great question, right? And I love having that on the show, just talking about that. It's going to be you who has to rise up, right? No matter, I find that mentors and all these people around us, that there's so much great information that you can get. And you're only going to be ready when you are ready for the information in front of you. And so when you yourself take control of your day, take control of your setting, take control of your actions, even if you feel things are happening outside you, that's fine. But you upon yourself have to be responsible and take control of you and your day and rise up to be the person that you're meant to be. Because we all have greatness in front of us. We all have greatness within us, but it takes you to take charge today, to take control of your day, take control in your setting, and then rise up and be the person that you should be.
I love that. Because at the end of the day, no matter what challenges come, what 100th mile we're running, it's you and your body running this life race. Jason, it's been such a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Wasn't he great? We'll have to go back, listen again. 4:32 a.m. I think I might start with 6:32 a.m., but I don't think that has the same ring. 6:32. No, I'm going to have to work on that one. So great. Well, I'm Lauren Sweeney. It's been an absolute pleasure being your host today. Whether you're listening along or you're watching us live on the Facebook, we are so excited that you have joined us today. We want to make sure that you're able to download your free success kit. Yes, it's totally free. Just go to riseupforyou.com/success kit and grab it there today. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you soon.